It was just another ordinary morning on a busy New York street. A hooded gunman approaches his target and opens fire. Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, one of the largest health insurance companies in America, was heading to an important meeting. But what he didn't know was that someone was waiting for him. A figure in a light brown hoodie, standing just across the street, watching his every move. In just moments, the streets would erupt in chaos. Gunshots rang out and Brian Thompson fell to the ground. A calculated assassination in broad daylight. But why? Who would want the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation dead? And what dark secrets might this murder reveal? Brian Thompson wasn't just any executive. As the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, he was a powerful figure at the helm of a company that shapes the healthcare landscape for millions of Americans. With UnitedHealthcare generating over $300 billion annually, Thompson represented not only corporate success, but also for many, the face of an industry often criticized for its policies. But with power and wealth come controversy. UnitedHealthcare, like many major insurers, has been accused of prioritizing profits over people. Allegations of denied claims, high premiums, and limited coverage had made the company a lightning rod for public outrage. And as the CEO, Thompson often found himself in the crosshairs of that anger. On December 4th, 2024, Thompson was in Manhattan for an annual healthcare investors meeting. He had no reason to suspect that this day would be any different. After all, for someone of his stature, high-profile meetings and early morning walks through the city were routine. But this morning, everything would change. At 6:44 a.m., Thompson left his hotel and began walking toward the New York Hilton Midtown, where the meeting was set to take place. As he approached the entrance, a man dressed in a light brown hoodie emerged from the shadows. What happened next was shocking. In broad daylight, on one of the busiest streets in Manhattan, the hooded figure fired 3 shots. The bullets struck Thompson in the back and leg, sending him collapsing to the ground. Witnesses froze in shock as the assailant fled the scene on an e-bike, vanishing into the city's labyrinth of streets and alleys. By the time emergency responders arrived, it was too late. Thompson was rushed to Mount Sinai West Hospital, but was pronounced dead shortly after. The murder of one of corporate America's most powerful figures was not just shocking, it was unprecedented, and it left everyone asking, who would carry out such a brazen attack? And why? As news of Brian Thompson's murder spread, pressure mounted on the NYPD to solve the case. The brazen nature of the crime, a CEO gunned down in broad daylight, left the city shaken, but the investigation moved quickly, with detectives piecing together a trail of clues that would lead them to a suspect. The first breakthrough came from surveillance footage. Cameras near the crime scene captured a hooded figure fleeing on an e-bike moments after the shooting. Witnesses described him as calm, methodical, and unremarkable, traits that made him blend in easily with the morning crowd. 4 days after the murder, Mangione, an Ivy League graduate, was arrested on Monday from a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, ending over a week-long manhunt after UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was shot down in Manhattan. The abandoned e-bike provided investigators with crucial evidence. According to the New York Police Department, NYPD, the 3D printed gun that Mangione had when he was arrested in Pennsylvania matched 3 shell casings found at the crime scene. The investigators also revealed that Mangione's fingerprints were matched on the Starbucks water bottle and a Kind energy bar, a snack wrapper found at the incident site on December 4th. The police were primarily investigating the fingerprints as surveillance images reportedly showed Mangione buying these items around 30 minutes before the shooting. The 26-year-old suspect is currently in custody and is facing multiple charges, including murder. He was denied bail at an extradition hearing at the Blair County Courthouse in Pennsylvania on Wednesday. Mangione's manifesto was a scathing indictment of the healthcare industry. He blamed companies like UnitedHealthcare for prioritizing profits over patients, accusing them of exploiting the vulnerable for financial gain. But this wasn't just a written outburst. It was a roadmap for revenge. The level of planning was astonishing. Mangione wasn't acting out of impulse. This was calculated. He knew Brian Thompson's schedule. He created a weapon that couldn't be traced, and he left behind a message he wanted the world to hear. Investigators discovered that Mangione had been tracking Thompson's public appearances for weeks. He used online resources to pinpoint the exact time and location of the healthcare investors meeting. On the morning of the crime, he waited patiently, blending into the crowd until the perfect moment arrived. When confronted by police, Mangione didn't resist arrest. In fact, he seemed almost relieved.
Oh my God, that's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
But for law enforcement and prosecutors, his manifesto raised more questions than it answered. Was this an act of personal revenge, or was Mangione trying to send a message to an entire industry? To the outside world, Luigi Mangione seemed like the least likely person to commit such a heinous crime. A 26-year-old Ivy League graduate with a degree in computer science, Mangione's future looked bright. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. A storm fueled by frustration, pain, and a growing disdain for the healthcare system. Born and raised in a middle-class family, Mangione was always seen as the golden child. Intelligent, driven, and deeply passionate about technology. He had aspirations of creating software that could change lives. But somewhere along the way, life took a darker turn. Mangione had been dealing with chronic back pain for years, a condition that required frequent medical treatment. However, his encounters with the healthcare system were anything but smooth. From denied claims to delayed treatments, he felt trapped in a cycle of bureaucracy and corporate greed. Each setback added fuel to his growing resentment. In what investigators later called a manifesto, Mangione poured out his frustrations. He wrote about the soulless machines of corporate America, specifically targeting the healthcare industry. He blamed companies like UnitedHealthcare for prioritizing profits over patient care and accused them of ruining countless lives in the process. His manifesto wasn't just a rant, it was a declaration of war against a system he felt had failed him. And at the center of this system, in Mangione's eyes, was Brian Thompson. Investigators believe that Mangione meticulously planned the murder. They found evidence that he had been tracking Thompson's movements for weeks. Using publicly available schedules and corporate events, he knew exactly when and where Thompson would be that fateful morning. What shocked investigators even more was the weapon. Mangione had used a 3D printed gun equipped with a silencer, both of which he had designed and manufactured himself. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. It was calculated, methodical, and disturbingly precise. Mangione's escape was just as calculated as the murder itself. He used an e-bike to navigate the crowded streets, knowing it would allow him to blend in and avoid detection. Hours later, the bike was found abandoned in an alleyway, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. But the crime scene provided crucial evidence. Bullet casings, surveillance footage, and eyewitness accounts all pointed to a single conclusion. This was a premeditated assassination. The question was, why? Why would someone target Brian Thompson? And what message was Mangione trying to send? What drove an Ivy League graduate with a promising future to commit such a cold-blooded act? Was it pure revenge, or was there something deeper? A twisted sense of justice in a system he believed had failed not just him, but millions of others. The murder of Brian Thompson sent ripples through the society. For some, Thompson was a symbol of corporate greed, a powerful executive representing an industry often criticized for prioritizing profits over people. For others, he was a father, a husband, and a man dedicated to leading one of the world's largest healthcare providers. The murder also ignited a firestorm on social media, where users debated everything from Mangione's motives to the healthcare policies that may have fueled his resentment. Thompson's wife, in a heartfelt statement, described him as a compassionate leader who believed in improving access to care. Thompson's wife also stated that her husband had recently received threats from angry customers before the brazen targeted attack. Brian Thompson's murder was a tragedy that reverberated far beyond the walls of UnitedHealthcare. It highlighted deep fractures in the healthcare system, the consequences of unchecked corporate power, and the desperation felt by individuals who believe they've been left behind. For his family and colleagues, Brian was more than a CEO. He was a husband, a father, and a man who believed in the potential of healthcare to transform lives. His death left a void not just in the corporate world, but in the lives of those who knew him personally. Luigi Mangione now spends his days in a maximum security prison, a symbol of the lengths to which desperation can drive a person. But his story and the story of Brian Thompson remain intertwined, a grim reminder of what can happen when frustration meets violence in a world of inequality and unmet needs. The murder of Brian Thompson was a tragedy, one that exposed uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and the human cost of broken systems.
Thank you for watching this episode of True Crime Uncovered. If you found this story impactful, please like this video, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe.